is the BJ Show. Today's date is July 1st, John. It's a brand new day, brand new third quarter, brand new second half of the year. What else is it brand new?
Mostly just Q3, I think, Brad. And I did one of my favorite things that I do on a website that you were sure to hype in just a moment, which is on the first day of the month, not only do we all celebrate getting our welfare checks, because you and I are from Spanish Lake and we love the Bone Thugs and Harmony song first of the month, but more importantly, Brad, on the first of the month, I linked to previous year's first of the month headlines. So, for example, today you could go back and see what the top headlines were from July 1st, 2015. It's always a little doozy that I like to do on the first of the month, Brad.
So any headlines of note from from 10 years ago?
Yeah, Brad Hildebrand was rappelling down a tall building to raise money for charity.
Come on, really?
No.
Okay.
I just made that up.
Okay.
But you like to do that on occasion, Brad. No, folks can go to johncombest.com today and click on headlines for July 2015 and see what was going on back then.
John, can I two things before we get going here. We got a little extra time this morning because we started early this morning. I don't know if you saw that or not. But two things. I need your opinion on the first thing. I love the rappel. I've done it, I don't know, 13, 14 times. My favorite one was when I rappelled off the top of the hotel tower at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. I did, matter of fact, the most recent one I did, I think was, year and a half, 2 years ago, where I rappelled off the top of the press box at the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium. And, John, let me tell you something. Oh, my God, that press box was in such bad shape. There were cracks.
I know. They need more money to rebuild it, don't they?
There were cracks in the roof, and there were spots that said, don't step here, you might fall through the roof. No, it was in excellent shape. The building looked beautiful. I didn't have any problems with it whatsoever. Okay. They haven't done an Over the Edge. That's what the name of the company is. They haven't done an Over the Edge in 2 or 3 years here in St. Louis. And there's one coming to, of all places, the Westplex. They're going to do the Embassy Suites. But it is an organization that, quite honestly, has snubbed our radio stations. And they promote a lot of the other radio stations, but they won't give us the time of day. Should I work to raise $1,000 to rappel Over the Edge? Well, maybe we can dig into this a little bit deeper. When you say that they have snubbed you, do other radio stations have some sort of a financial relationship with them already? Like, is that why? And who is they? Is it a national group? Are they a local group? Who are they? Well, do you want to talk about that in C Block?
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think it's worth discussing. If it's a philanthropic thing that's important to you, but you feel like they're intentionally disrespecting you, then I think we should talk about it.
John, I guess the other problem is, and I know you don't agree with me in this, but the more I get into this, the more it sort of bothers me. I'm beginning to get a very, is the word disfavorable? Is that a word, John?
Yeah, that is. Describing what?
Disfavorable view on not-for-profits and charities.
You've had that. Now, to be fair, you've had that view for a while, right? Based on your personal experiences.
Well, I think, in our own radio industry, the KDHX thing is a perfect example of this. The organization that had a horrendous and still has a horrendous board that trashed the radio station is now going to be the beneficiaries of $6.75 million. I'm going like, okay, what the hell is going on? Okay, I'll put that aside. Most important thing. Your friend and mine, Shelley Barr, is back in the hospital.
Oh, no.
I won't give all the details, but I have to tell you, and I'll be very honest when I say this, I thought yesterday was it. I mean, as far as, I just say EOL, and if you know what that stands for, you know what I mean. Okay. And I, believe it or not, went to see her in the trauma room at a emergency room. I won't mention the hospital. And that's never a good situation when you're in the trauma room. So all I'm going to tell you is if you're one of those people that put your hands together and say things, say good things for Shelley. And if you would like to go, well, I shouldn't say that because I think she's in ICU now, so I can't tell you. Well, if you want more information, call me 314-280-8880. Okay, now we move on. John Combest, Combest. I spell it because of the fact that he is the guy that has this incredible website. John Combest, JohnCombest.com, puts up this site every single day for 23 years. How many days have you missed, John?
0.0.
Do we ever get tired of that gag, John? Do we?
You know how many times we do? 0.0.
Yes, that's exactly it. Okay, we count them down. We take all the things that's on JohnCombest.com from today, and we bring in this guy right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts off with...
In third place...
A follow-up to a story from yesterday's A-Block. We discussed PrideFest, and we discussed the fact that the joyous LGBTQIA *+ celebration held every June during Pride Month was marred by violence late Friday into Saturday morning, that there was a shooting. A couple women got involved in some girl-on-girl gunplay. Brad, yesterday we also mentioned that there were some tweets from representatives of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department talking about nonsense, savagery, hooliganism, hoodlumism taking place on Sunday night. But there were no media stories about it yesterday in mainstream media. But today there are, Brad. So for story number 3, a headline from KSDK, Channel 5 in St. Louis. Violence, fireworks spark outside St. Louis Pride events, arrests made. At least 4 people remain in custody Monday night after chaotic fights broke out right on the doorstep of several Pride events Sunday. I mentioned yesterday, Brad, there was a tweet about a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, who hopped on the back of a police officer. Now, I believe the original tweet from someone from the police department said that the individual jumped on the back of a police car. But actually, this man with a rifle, this 19-year-old with a rifle, jumped on the back of an actual police officer. So I'll get to the key quote here, Brad. There's a gentleman named Chad Fox. He owns the Rehab Bar and Grill, which is a big drag queen place where folks go and perform and do that type of stuff. Here's the headline. When we have teenagers out in the streets fighting each other and carrying guns and doing stuff that's not even part of our community, that shuts us down and shuts our celebration down. It's really hurtful to us. Also, the gentleman who's been president of Pride St. Louis for 15 years, a guy named Marty Zuniga, he's not too happy with these hoodlums coming into his community and creating trouble. Here's what he says, quote, "That is outside agitation, taking advantage of a situation when we should be allowed to celebrate." So it would appear, Brad, that key members of the gay community are having a little bit of fatigue right now. What do you think about all this, Brad?
John, they're not being inclusive.
They're not being inclusive to the hooligan and hoodlum community. Isn't that fair to say, Brad?
Right. Isn't that LGBTQIA HH? The hoodlum?
They are, yes, hooligans and hoodlums. Right. They should be welcomed in the community. And Brad, you brought up a great point yesterday, and I didn't have an answer to it then, but I think I have an answer to it now, which is that last year, you asked me yesterday on the air whether they shut down an area of Manchester in the Grove for this celebration.
Right.
And what I didn't know was last year they did shut it down. This year they did not shut the road down. So what I think is implied in the KSDK story is that if the road had been shut down and it was easier to contain the flow, I guess, of traffic and by some stretch people, we wouldn't have had that sort of criminal behavior. Well, and according to this story, bar owners say that they weren't able to, or organizers say that they didn't have enough money, probably because of lack of sponsorships, to pay, I guess, to have the road shut down. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, but I'm still confused because the story last week was they're putting up a barrier so you couldn't just get in.
Yes.
Where was the barrier? What area did they cordon off, so to speak?
I'm guessing, so I thought the same thing this morning, Brad, and I haven't dived too far into those videos. But what I'm guessing is that maybe somewhere up on the sidewalk, so for example, out in front of some of these bars, you would have some sort of a fence or a partition where you had to buy your wristband for $10 and that gave you access to these different bars and places like that. But you could still travel on the street. I guess you could still drive through or walk through. I'm not certain about it, though, Brad.
Okay, another comment. Okay, I'm a gun guy. I openly will admit that. Okay, these dudes that walk around with open carry, and especially, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but when what was the trial of the police officer that supposedly shot that guy, and they brought the case back. You know which one?
Was it Zimmerman?
No, it was the one in South City. The guy was the police officer, and he actually.
Yeah, gosh, I forgot the name of that. I know. Was it Vonderette Myers?
I believe that was, but I can't remember.
That was and the criminal's family said that he was only carrying a sandwich. I know the case you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, there was a police chase, and then supposedly he reached for something, and the cop shot him, and killed him. Okay, and there were all the riots. Okay, I embedded myself with the rioters right down on Market and Tucker. I mean, I was in that group. Okay, and there was not two, but three lunkheads carrying rifles slung over their shoulder. And one guy, and this is what's so bizarre, there's a rifle among people who know their rifles. This is a Russian rifle called, I believe it's spelled Nagant, a Nagant. And for all intents and purposes, it would be like you driving around in your Model T. Nobody uses these rifles anymore. They are like collector's items, but it's something that you would never use for like personal protection, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, sure.
And it's to the point where I saw that guy and I thought, okay, what's would the term be performative? He was performative with his rifle. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah. He was mostly just flexing, as the youth say.
Right. And I thought to myself, what a lunkhead. But the problem with this is, if you are a police officer, and in this case you have a guy who's got a rifle, already your spidey senses have to be tinkling, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, Brad.
And to the point where at that point, anything that happens past that is, and I'm not saying the police should say, well, the guy's got a rifle, we got to shoot him, but it's just like, you watch, John, I'm a YouTube guy. You watch these videos of traffic stops, and you say, and a lot of times it's the body cam video, and you go like, okay, this guy is going to be in some trouble because they're arrogant, that kind of stuff. And it's like my son taught me from the cop that he worked for, the perfect traffic stop. If you are a good citizen,
let me interrupt, Brad. You hop out of your car, you don't show your hands, and if you're carrying a concealed weapon, you certainly don't tell the police. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
No, just the opposite.
You don't hop out of your car and charge the officer? No. What should we do, Brad?
John, you don't. John, sometimes you
get an attitude. And then the first question, Brad Hildebrand taught me this. The first question after you charge the police officer and you're face down, you say, do you know who I am?
Right.
Don't you know who I am?
That goes back to my days as police dispatcher. Okay, we spent too much time on that. Number two.
Up a notch to number two.
A story out of mid-Missouri. There's a radio station there, KFRU, Brad. They're kind of their, eclectic public service type of station. They're not exactly KBIA, but they do a lot of feel-good public service stuff. And yesterday they had our state climatologist, Dr. Zack Leasor. And yes, Brad, Missouri has its own state climatologist. And what are we expecting from summer patterns? Well, believe it or not, Brad, this year in Missouri, from January to June 30th, we've actually had cooler than average temperatures. Would you believe that, Brad?
Yes, I would, to be honest with you.
And, I think a lot of people, I would have guessed cooler as well, to be honest, but we all have a recency bias. And because it has been so dang hot these last 2 weeks, we'd be inclined to say that it's hotter than normal. But this gentleman, Dr. Zack Leasor, confirmed that we've actually been cooler than previous years on average this year. And so David Gaines, he's the host of A Columbia Morning, which you can listen to from 6 to 9, a.m. He asked, okay, give it to us straight, Doc. What's it going to be like in July? Brad, in July in the state of Missouri, all throughout the state of Missouri, you can expect a wet, humid July. And another penetrating question that Mr. Gaines asked our state climatologist was, all this tornado stuff that we've seen, can we blame that on climate change? And Dr. Leasor says, no, actually, we can't blame the tornadoes and the rough weather we've seen this year on climate change at all. So Dr. Leasor declined to give much of a forecast into, late August and September, because he said that the confidence in forecasting out that far isn't so high. But obviously, as we get to the end of July, we'll probably know about fall weather a little better. So I think, Brad, we've done pretty well in terms of keeping temperatures low. And with the exception of the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been too nuts around here.
John, do you know, I don't know if you know this or not, I'll clue you in on this because, I'm always giving you tips and stuff. There's a hidden page on the STLPR, the St. Louis Public Radio.org website, and I've got the link to it, and I send you the link. And the interesting thing is that it's a list of all the people who are now banned from being on the air at St. Louis Public Radio, and Dr. Leasor is on that list.
Oh, because he says that climate change isn't the devil.
Yes, because he's not saying that because your petunias didn't bloom on the day they were supposed to bloom, it was because of global warming. You know what I mean? It's like everything comes back to global warming. It's just
either global warming or Trump, or you find out. Now, the way that Dr. Leasor could actually redeem himself is to come out and say that he is a lesbian. And he was in a relationship with Sally Ride for many years. Brad, there's a fantastic piece today, not in the top three, from John All, a St. Louis Public Radio working out of Rolla, and it's about an LGBTQIA group down in Rolla, Brad, and they're doing some very special things. And Mr. All pointed out that yesterday was the last day of Pride Month, Brad, so you want to get a good story in on the last day of Pride Month.
John, I'm going to say something that I'm going to shock you. In my old age, now that I'm 90, you know how old people say things. I can't believe my grandpa said that.
Yeah. What do you got to say, Gramps?
Okay. You ready for this, John?
It's in your top three stories for B Block.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
This is a revelation. I am coming out. I am a lesbian because I love women.
Boy, you sure do, Brad. I've always kind of suspected from the first time I met you and I saw that you had short hair, I'm like, I bet this human likes women.
I do. Okay, number one.
The number one.
It's the talk of the Missouri political world yesterday and will be today, Brad. Governor Mike Kehoe has taken out his veto pen and he wielded it like a sword. That quote actually is from the Missouri Times. I think our friend Jake Crozen had that. Brad, I have a few links up today at johncombest.com about Governor Kehoe's veto pen. The headline and the top sentence that I'll read from this Missouri Times tweet is Missouri's new $50.8 billion with a B, Brad. Billion budget is here. And Governor Mike Kehoe just wielded the veto pen like a sword. 208 vetoes, $500 million cut or frozen. Now, Jake goes through here and breaks down everything that was vetoed by the governor. And in short, Kehoe's point is not that we necessarily have a revenue problem in the state of Missouri. It's that we have a spending problem. That sounds a lot like what my friend Brad Hildebrand has pointed out about the monstrous Missouri state government. And Jake at the Missouri Times lays out here, why swing the budget axe now? Jake has a couple tick marks here to show. Number one, Brad, pandemic aid is gone. Number two, Missouri just passed some big tax cuts, like no more capital gains tax. That costs Missouri about $400 million a year. And storm relief, $210 million from the state is going to emergency relief. In other words, spending is up and revenue is down. So Kehoe says, again, we don't have an economic problem. We have a spending problem. These cuts keep Missouri's AAA credit rating strong and protect taxpayers from bigger pain later. One of the things that you will enjoy, Brad, in each of the stories that I linked to today, each of them link to Governor Kehoe's actual budget line item vetoes. And you can see some of the fun things that he vetoed. Now, for example, some of them offend me. I don't want to live in a state where the governor vetoes $250,000 designated for the National Society of Black Engineers. If we don't have $250,000 in our budget to give to the National Society of Black Engineers, I'm not sure I want to live here, Brad. There's also some money that was cut that was going to go to some doulas, various road studies, various let's study the turn lane in South Shelby High School, things like that, Brad. So you, being you, will have a field day with Governor Kehoe's line items here, Brad.
John.
So link to all those stories up at johncombest.com today.
You know what's coming up in B Block?
Oh, what's that, Brad?
My top 3. And you know what my number 1 was? It was because
National Society of Black Engineers funding.
No, it was. I read you right off my sheet. Kehoe approves and disapproves. That's what was.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's go through that, Brad, because I got to be honest. Other than reading Jake's piece and a piece by Rudy Keller, Rudy has a really good piece in the Missouri Independent today. I haven't dug too far into these vetoes.
Well, I did a little bit of research, but you probably have done more. But if you want, we'll start. We'll go through the top 3. We'll hit number 1, and if it's not good, I just wrote down an alternate 1. How's that?
I love it.
Okay,